From the Egyptian point of view, they got to be thinking, wait a minute, you know, you guys backed Mubarak for decades, and all of a sudden you don't like us? Well, why don't you like us, right? What, all of a sudden you're like decent and you care about human rights? What's this?
Welcome to NewsBeast. We've got Michelle Goldberg and Mike Daly on the set. How y'all doing?
Hey, good.
Michelle, let's start with you. I understand you're fascinated story. It's got a lot of people fascinated. The new CEO of Yahoo is pregnant.
Right, and the first pregnant CEO of a Fortune 500 company, at least that we know of.
That we know of.
Yes. And I mean, what's interesting to me is all the kind of concern trolling about, well, should she be doing this? And, you know, is this fair to Yahoo shareholders? You know, there was one business pundit that compared it to Steve Jobs' cancer and said, you know, do they have some kind of fiduciary responsibility to disclose this earlier? What I think is interesting is that, well, first of all, the fact that obviously you never get these questions if the CEO's wife is pregnant. But beyond that, these people who are so concerned about her plan to go back to work after a couple of weeks, they seem to be kind of silent about the fact that that American law forces the vast majority of women to do the exact same thing, right? If it's so kind of intolerable for a woman to be forced back to work in a few weeks, you would think that there would be maybe a peep in favor of actually extended maternity leave.
That would be far too rational. And your term's concern trolling is just awesome.
Well, it's not my term.
Well, I'm going to give you full credit. Okay. Mike Daly, any thoughts on this?
What is it? It's amazing how hard people work to find something objectionable. I mean, we got a whole world full of problems. I mean, every time you turn the corner, there's something else horrible happening. And they're like looking to find a problem with a woman who's going to have a child. I mean, it's only going to make her smarter.
Right.
Well, I mean, you know, kids only make you smarter. You know more about life. You know, you put things in perspective. You know what to put up with, what not to put up with. And it's only going to make her a better executive. And that's, anybody who has a kid knows that.
Well, the thing I worry about, too, is that, you know, she will be, I think there's been 5 CEOs in 5 years. But if she is not successful in turning this kind of struggling, flailing company around, I hope that we don't hear about it having anything to do with work-life issues, as opposed to Yahoo issues.
Well, yeah. Successful next time they have a company in trouble.
Oh, yeah,
say,
for
get
sure.
me someone pregnant.
Well, you know, and they already say that with women, right? There's already this thing called the glass cliff, where, you know, companies, you know, there's already, I think she's only the 20th CEO of a Fortune 500 company, and companies are much, much more likely to turn to a woman kind of when they've tried everything else. Like, women are much more likely to be given control of companies that are in serious trouble.
Well, and obviously, I mean, beyond the work-life balance sort of, you know, fascination questions about that she's coming to symbolize, the fact that one of the original Google executives is taking over Yahoo is extraordinary. I mean, it's sort of like Axelrod going to take over the Romney campaign. it's kind of stunning. Let's talk also about Michelle Bachmann's Muslim Brotherhood rant.
President Obama's embrace of the newly elected Egyptian Muslim Brotherhood Parliament. Our United States State Department just several weeks ago broke a federal law. They wanted to grant a visa to a member of a foreign designated terrorist organization.
Which got very prominent pushback from John McCain and Ed Rollins in a sign of decency and clarity in a time of insanity in our politics. I know you. This you and I. We and I work this freak beat a lot.
Well, I mean, first of all, I guess, you know, to me this is a pretty low bar. Yeah, like, okay, he gets credit for saying that there's not kind of secret Muslim Brotherhood infiltration in the government. I mean, if that's really, you know, if that's the bar, that's not exactly have you no shame, but.
But it's a step in that direction at a time when there are very few.
To me, the thing that I think is really important to note is that this stuff has consequences.
Sure it
right?
does.
There was a story in the Times that didn't get as much attention as I think it should have, that some of the attacks on Hillary Clinton when she was in Egypt recently, the people throwing shoes, it wasn't because they were Islamists. It was because they were actually supporters of the army and the old regime who believed American right-wing sources about complicity between the U.S. government and the Muslim Brotherhood. And it's hard to explain to them that these are crazy people because they have a certain amount of authority in the U.S. government.
Yeah, and from the Egyptian point of view, they got to be thinking, wait a minute, you know, you guys backed Mubarak for decades, and all of a sudden you don't like us? Well, why don't you like us, right? What, all of a sudden you're like decent and you care about human rights? What's this? And then they look around and say, well, oh, Huma, look at that. There's her. It's got to be her. And that nutty Hillary, and that's got to, and then we got a guy in the White House with named Hussein, and it's got to be.
Right,
so
and then there's and there's people in the U.S. government telling them that that's correct.
Yeah, I mean, and people forget that, I mean, you know, that nuts are not just people on the corner raving and talking to themselves. Nuts can also be in the House of Representatives wearing nice clothes.
Yeah, winning the Iowa straw poll. I mean, and briefly being taken seriously. But that is what I loved. I mean, low bar aside, in this particular environment, so often people just give a pass to any crazy talk that comes from their team.
Right, like people saying that Obama is un-American and...
Like routinely, which...
McCain stood up for Obama, remember back then?
I guess.
That exact
Right, you're
same
right.
tone, that exact same reflection.
You're right, if
is
only
that
he would stand up to
decency.
John Sununu.
Yeah, you know, decency has its limits, but you know, it's nice to see when it raises itself, and I think in both cases, it was a reflexive feeling that this is, essentially, it's un-American to do that.
That's right.
It's just to take people's heritages and names and all that and try to make it into something that's just fundamentally un-American.
You're right,
It
don't
is.
tell that to Mitt Romney.
At the end of the day. All right, guys, final word, Michelle?
Cliff.
Cliff.
Muslim.
Decency. That's all for us at NewsBeast.